go. Dirty old town. Dirty old town. One more time. Dirty old town. What a dirty old town.
Play Freebird. There we go. Welcome, everybody. That is some Memorex. Biggest UK and EU EV myths. Yes, we're back. We're back, and I've got a couple big announcements at the end. Couple. Some are very imminent, and the other is pretty imminent. Let's move this back out of frame. I do want to say a welcome back to Patreon to Jim and Sydney Ringgold, and welcome to Giles, Ivor, and Dell for your... Thank you so much for your decision to support the channel. Yeah, what keeps me going around the world. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me, if I sound good, and if I look as good as possible, I suppose. And this is the full version, which normally goes out on Fridays, but I was very sleepy after a very long ride home. So I got some sleep and I feel good. Better than usual. Very surprising. So yeah, let's talk about some myths, shall we? Juice outside the US. This is in response to, you know, the idea of robotaxis, but really about Uber and all that. Juice outside the US is too expensive. UK normal electric is 40 cents per kilowatt hour. That'd be about 44 cents US. Supercharged at 55p. That'd be about 60 cents US. Other 150, you know, the fast kilowatt. Oh, God, you're not going to charge. You're not going to do an Uber on Tesla on those electricity prices. Well, the thing is, electricity prices are higher in Europe than they are in the US, but gasoline prices are so much higher. So much higher. And so, yeah, you're just not going to do it. Well, let's look at the gasoline prices. These are in liters. Oh, you know what? I can change it to gallons. Let's just do that. There we go. Wow. So even some of the Eastern European countries where it's cheaper, still $6.50 a gallon. Get into the developed countries. Ireland, $8.60 a gallon. That chart's broken a bit. Can I fix it? Not really. Let's put it back to liters, huh? Back to liters. You'll see that, I swear this was working. I know why. There we go. So yeah, it's very expensive. You can just roughly quadruple. So Norway, about $8 a gallon. Denmark, $8. All these countries, about $8. You can get down around $7 in places like Ireland, Portugal, and Belgium, and all that. It's quite expensive. It's quite expensive. So even though the electricity is more expensive, it's not proportionately. It's still a cheaper drive. Upgrading to an electric vehicle in London, this is on Uber's site themselves. They're saying, yeah, do it. Why switch? Well, a bunch of reasons. Exclusive deals, no zone charges. You can get higher trip payments on Uber Green, which some people just choose. But already, the EVs are here. Well, who can, you can get, there's a bunch of benefits. Uber fully electric option expands to all of London. So that's cool. They've already got set to have 10,000 by the end of last year. Last year or this year? Let's check the date. Last year. And expanding even further beyond that. So electric cars are already being used on Uber in London, in England, in Europe generally. In the Netherlands, waiting by the taxi stand, we saw Mach-E's, we saw Teslas, we saw, I think I saw a Renault Zoe maybe. I don't remember for sure on that. But we saw all kinds of electric cars constantly running through the taxi queue. And in a lot of places in Europe, Uber is taxi. Some places might have restrictions that say you have to be licensed, and so the taxi guys will just grab the Uber app and use that in addition to just being a regular taxi. And this month, Uber announced, this is last year, a £5 million investment in EV charging points across London, over 700 on-street electric vehicle chargers, installed across Brent, Newham, Redbridge, boosting London's stock of electric EV chargers by 7%. So it's still moving forward. But here's a neat one. London has a congestion charge. If you want to go into the city, this little circly part of the city here, you have to pay. And not just every day, but every time you go in and out of it. Every time you cross that border, you have to pay £12.50 is the daily charge. So that means $15, $15.56. So like if you're doing 20 days of work, it's, that's $300 a month, man. That's a lot of money. $300 a month. Do you know how much more car you could buy if you weren't paying $300 a month? Because electric cars do not pay the congestion charge. That's made London the quietest major city I have ever been to. It's crazy. There's no constant acceleration out the window, but also they're very polite people. They use the horn as sparingly as BMW drivers do with the blinker. It's nice. So if you were to target an extra $300 a month, that would be $18,630 more you could pay on your car at 5%. So if you're looking at a $30,000 ICE car versus a $48,000 EV, the EV is cheaper if you're driving in London. Now, London is a bit of an exception. Most places don't have a congestion charge, but in London, it makes sense. It is a no-brainer. That's to say nothing of the savings in fuel. That's to say nothing of the savings on maintenance and repairs, oil changes, all that stuff. Let's make sure I'm looking good. Everyone give a thumbs up. Thank you, Green Pad. St. Tropez. Oh, tan. Okay, yes. I did get a little bit of sunburn. I'm not sure if that's what we're talking about. Our gas is cheap because of stupid oil company subsidies. Yes, it is, David. Yes, it is. Washington State has some of the cheapest electricity, mainly due to all the hydropower. Yes, we do. And also we get a rebate when the power is exported to other states. On my bill each month, it says, by the way, here's how much money we're giving you back because we sold the power to California. Have the window open as we speak, and so much noise pollution outside. Yeah, I understand that, Digital Blade. Thumbs down from who is this? I don't know why. So let's go over another myth. Cybertruck's too wide. It'll never make it. It's too wide. It's 79.8 inches wide. And that might not even be the final width. Yes, it will. There's a road restriction in the US that says over 80 inches and you need special different stuff. 80 inches is the target. It'll be under that. And we've seen it. It's not bigger than the prototype. 79.8, reasonable. So how big is that? Well, the Model 3 is already 72.8 inches wide. It's only 8 inches wider than that. Model S, famously wide car, nice big hips, 78.2. It's less than 2 inches bigger across, wider than the Model S. Oh, mind you, the Model S is a very big car. But what about coach buses? 8'4". They're 8'4" wide. That's 100 inches. It's 2.5 feet wider, about, than a Cybertruck. Could you fit those? JJ wants to know if I saw any hydrogen fuel cell vehicles over there. I didn't, but I wouldn't have noticed them because the badging is very subtle. You can fit a giant coach on roads. Now, these are exceptions because my search was tour bus on narrow roads Europe, but they do still fit. I've been on these tour buses on very small streets that look like this. They fit. That's a one-way street, probably. You can still get around at 100 inches of width. I'm not saying you should buy something 100 inches wide, but look at this DHL truck here and this delivery van here. These still fit on European roads, and these are as wide as a Cybertruck. If these couldn't fit, there would be no pickups in Europe, and there are pickups. People don't use them as daily drivers. They use them as work trucks, and they're everywhere. Every city I was in, I saw pickup trucks. A lot of Toyota Tacomas. Look at this, a bunch of F-150s for sale in England. Very interesting. Well, surely they won't fit. I mean, I wouldn't want to drive one on European roads, but I don't think I'd want to drive something this big on US roads either, unless it was a Cybertruck. Digital Blade Canada says there's some weird restrictions in Europe against pointy-shaped cars. The rules are different, but the differences aren't all that huge. So what about range anxiety? Is that a concern? Is that something we should be worried about? Maybe. Maybe. But in Europe, it's far less common to have range anxiety than here. Well, Greece has the highest level of range anxiety. Yeah, and they're more spread out. They're not quite as dense as other places. I feel like the people concerned with range anxiety are not the same ones concerned with width of the vehicle. So in London, they still make these, you know. These adorable little London cabs. This company makes them in electric. And they're everywhere. I've ridden in one. Got to ride in one in Farnborough. It was very cool. And I took a little video inside. I don't know if it'll be in any way useful. Rob wants to know if I got sunburned in Ireland. I got sunburned in, probably in Ireland too, but I definitely did in England because my people are not familiar with the sun. We have a great suspicion of it. Isn't it weird that there's a big bright orb in the sky and you're not allowed to make eye contact? Bit fishy. So what's the range on the electric cab? Well, the would like to pretend range is 200 and... I had it here. 470 kilometers. And so you can subtract, 10 to 20% to get the actual EPA rating, which might still be generous. But that means you can get 292 miles of range on that London electric cab. That's more than enough. If you're doing 300 miles a day, you're going to wear through that car entirely in a matter of years. And London electric cabs don't. They stick around forever. Thank you, Jim. I appreciate that. The sun is dangerous, Greenpad. That's correct. It's not to be trifled with. So 150 miles each way. How far can you go? With a range of 200 kilometers each direction. Well, from London, you could get to Wales. You could drive to Wales and back on a single charge. Might be a little tight, but you could do it. You could go all the way to the north. You can go all the way to the south. You can go... I mean, you can go through the Channel and get to Europe, but... And from Berlin, similar kind of numbers. 200 kilometers each way. You can get all the way across the country. You can go a long, long way. It's adequate. So, range anxiety, not as big of a deal. Not as big of a deal. And by the way, if you have questions, get them in, because we will cover them at the end of the show. Then you've got cars like the Aura Funky Cat, which I got to see it fully charged. Check it out. I got an interview with a rep from there. It's a pretty neat car. It looks real nice. It's got a lot of retro touches that make it adorable. It only comes one way, fully loaded. You just pick your colors, and there you go. And I think it looks great. It has a significantly shorter range, but it's still more than adequate, and these cars are selling. They're selling well. And Aura has another car coming, a larger one, more of a Model 3 competitor. It doesn't have a name yet. They're calling it the Aura Next. So the range, 193 miles. So you can still go 80, 90 miles one way and still get home on a single charge. Or go round trip, 350-ish miles. These are selling because things are closer together. People in Europe don't do these 3 hours like it's no big deal kind of road trip. That's kind of a big deal. When you're going that far, you're probably going to take the train. It's quicker. It's more efficient. It's cheaper. And I think it's better. It's no stress. So then the question, the big one I hear is the competition is coming. I hear that in every country, but especially in Europe, it actually appears to be true. So if you look at the list of best-selling cars, you're going to find some names you may not be familiar with. Tesla, of course, Fiat 500e, we probably saw a few of those. Peugeot E208, Kia Niro, Skoda Enyaq, which is a rebadged Volkswagen, I believe. Renault Zoe, Kona, Dacia Spring, Ioniq, Mini Cooper, Renault, we don't get those here, not in electric, not at all, I don't think. Opel, Polestar, Peugeot, Nissan Leaf, BMW, Citroën, and the Mustang sold 11,800 units in this period, which was last year. Yeah, this was from last September, so this is a bit out of date. And you can tell it's a bit out of date because there are not very many Chinese brands on the list yet. The Aura Funky Cat, I don't believe is on this list because it only came out in November and it's already selling quite well. Smart Ford EQ 42, 44, I guess. Volkswagen, Mercedes EQE. There is a lot more competition. When you meet EV people in the US, most of them say, I have a Tesla. Because Tesla has so much market share here. When you meet EV people in Europe, most of them don't have a Tesla. At Fully Charged, the question was often asked of the panelists, of which there were a ton. It was 3 days of panels every 45 minutes or so, maybe every hour, on 2 stages. And all of them, oh, I have a Renault, I have a BYD. These guys are coming in real hot. Is competition coming for Tesla, for Volkswagen, for Porsche? Yes, and it's coming from China. Here are some Chinese brands you may or may not have heard of. Xiaopeng, NIO, BYD, of course. Geely, SAIC, maybe you haven't heard of it. Great Wall Motors, that's the Aura Funky Cat, among others. BYD, yes. Chery, Dongfeng. That is, first of all, what a great choice for name. I'm going to hop in my Dongfeng and scope for some ladies. I don't know. But there are, and the Wuling, there's a ton. There's an absolute ton. And even looking on Wikipedia, we see a Western bias. Wikipedia is not as big in China. So when you look at the list of electric vehicle manufacturers, you don't see accurate, complete, thorough representation. I asked at a panel on which Lars from Best in Tesla was a guest, I asked how many of these countless Chinese EV brands are we likely to see exported in coming years? And the answer from Elliot, who's a contributor to Fully Charged, and from the host, Robert Llewellyn, who runs Fully Charged, was a lot and quickly. More specifically, Elliot said we're going to see dozens exported to Europe and other markets, not so much the US, in the next 2 to 3 years. And what Robert Llewellyn said was, we have had Chinese brands come to us during Fully Charged and say, we would like to premiere our new car, which will be sold in Europe, at one of your events. They expect 10 new brands from China to enter the European market this year. Now, these aren't Tesla quality necessarily. Few cars are. These aren't Porsche quality. Very few cars are. These are companies that are making good cars at good prices. They're not rock bottom cheap. A guest asked, well, how come I see a $15,000 car in China and by the time it gets to the EU, it's $40,000, $50,000? And Elliot had a great answer. He said there's 2 reasons. The first is they're not importing base models. They don't want the reputation of being a cheap car. They want the reputation of being a good car. So part of it is you're only getting an up-optioned, highest quality vehicle. And the second reason is if the price is still too low, we're going to jack it up because we can't build them fast enough necessarily. And the price is part of the cachet. If we sold them at a loss, if we sold them just to get market share, we would run the risk of getting that reputation of being a discount brand. We don't want that. We want the reputation of being a good brand, maybe a premium brand. So I do want to thank my patrons, but remember, I've got 2 big announcements coming up right after I thank them, and then we're going to get into the Q and the A. Thanks to my patrons who get early access, bonus content, all that good stuff. This is likely a little bit out of date because I've been on the road. I tried to update it real quick before the show. I may have missed some. There may be some inaccuracies. If there are, let me know, and I will get it fixed. So the first announcement is today. In 90 minutes, I'm going to be at this event in Vancouver, Washington. There's a tour of the service center along with free donuts and coffee, because that's what I need is more coffee. Charlie, you fell off the patrons list. I'll get that checked. Thank you for letting me know. Let's see here. By the way, the patrons list starts at $5 and up. So if it's a patronage less than $5, it's not on there, but I do announce everyone when they join. So I'll be doing this in about 90 minutes. And the other big news, JJ, I think that's a mistake on my part, and I can get that fixed. The other big news is annual shareholder meeting. It looks like I'm confirmed. We had a email chat with investor relations. They asked for an updated statement from my brokerage, which I sent. They confirmed receipt of, and he said that I will be getting my QR code in the next batch that goes out. So I am going to Texas. I'm back on the road Monday, and I will be there. And then I'll be back on, I think, Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday or Thursday I'll be back. So it's a very, very quick trip. Yeah, and I just got in last night I got home at, 4 p.m., 5 p.m., something like that. After a very long flight from Amsterdam and a 16-hour layover, we got a hotel. We had to. We just had to. That's too long. And we did pop into town. Didn't get to do some of the great suggestions the patrons mentioned because when we got in, it was too late. It was too late in the day. Things were already closed. But we did get some lovely gyros at my favorite gyro place. It's right near the train station there. So that was great. And the boys had fun and we had fun. It was fun. And we had a wonderful time hanging out with Jeff and Lisa, who were also there for the beginnings and ends parts of the trip. We saw some great stuff. We saw Guinness. We saw it all. Yeah, Greenpad. Brian is in. It seems like it. If I was going to go down and it be 0 for 10, it would have just been 0 for 10. I just would have streamed from the sidewalk again. But 1 for 10 is better than 0 for 10. And I've seen some folks complaining, oh my gosh, this is ridiculous. I haven't been able to get in 2 or 3 events now. And but they'd gotten into 3 to 5 before that. And it's like, right. I met like 750 videos and I've never seen the inside of a factory. Not a Tesla one anyway. So it'd be nice. Yeah, I'm happy I'm getting into Bacon Carlson. Thank you so much. Yeah, going to Texas. So stressful. I should be meeting with Ellie on, I don't remember, Wednesday or someday. We're going to be doing a collaboration. And yeah, and I am hoping to also meet up with Joe and I'm definitely meeting up with Brian Roshetsky. We did some good shows online, but our stuff in person, it just really has a good flow to it. And Chandra, I will email you about that. Don't worry. I haven't forgotten you. I've just been on the road. When am I uploading my UK panel videos? My panel is not recorded. Lars's panel, I did record. I haven't yet seen what the quality of it is, but he would be uploading that. So unfortunately, mine was not recorded. Yeah, let's see if there's any other comments we gotta get to. Saturn quality? A lot of the Chinese EVs are Saturn quality. They're pretty good. They're not gonna knock your socks off, but they're capable, competent cars. And in a vacuum, you could look at any of these companies and say, this company's definitely going to survive. But it's not possible for all of them to succeed. By the way, I did have a fun comment. A gentleman messaged me directly on Twitter and said, "You are not giving GM a fair shake in your GM is doomed video," because they are, they've got battery factories coming online. They've got all these new vehicles. And you're not giving that any weight. And it's crazy because in the comments, people were like going all the way the other direction. They were going all the way the other direction. What are you, sponsored by GM? You're giving them way too much credit for their engineering, for products they don't have. Well, by the time the video came out, the Bolt had been canceled in that interim. So that was a little difficult and frustrating for me, but more frustrating and difficult for them. I believe I am giving GM at least a fair shake, but I do believe their survival prospects are very good. They've got good cash. They're attacking the market in the correct direction, as opposed to Lucid, who's going after a small and dwindling market segment in luxury EVs, not even SUVs. So it'll be difficult for them to move forward. And my question with GM is, you've got all the 3-4 battery factories being built. Do you have enough materials coming in at the one side to supply the batteries? And do you have enough vehicles coming out the other side to use the batteries? And the answer to both is, we don't know yet. Since when is London sunny? I think Brian went to the Bahamas. The sunburn was actually from Farnborough. So outside of London, doesn't really justify it, but I am a very pasty sort. So, Matt Hudson, excited to meet you, Mr. Weekend. At which one? Which one are you going to? The one in an hour and a half, or the other one? Let's see what we got. Was this the first trip across the pond for the boys? My boys have only been outside. Brendan had been to China for a month when he was a baby. Hardly counts. We'd been to Puerto Rico for 2 months when they were still pretty little. Not really outside the country, but culturally it definitely was. This was their first big international... Oh, and Mexico City. They'd been to Mexico City and Tijuana recently enough to remember well. But it was my first time traveling to an English-speaking country apart from Canada. And boy, is it expensive. I knew it was going to be expensive, but I was not prepared. Wow, was I not prepared. Oh, Matt Hudson's going to be at the shareholder event. Find me and say hello. Oh, very exciting. I think we're just about there. How many Teslas did I see in the UK and how many charging stations? I only noticed maybe 2 or 3 charging stations, but I was in very dense areas. The only time I did see, oh no, that was a car wash. I saw a guy washing his beautiful new Model 3 that he had put a bunch of custom finishes on. And I went up and I said, "It's lovely, I love it," gave him my card. And then we joked that this is how I grow my channel, 1 viewer at a time. The channel's actually done pretty well recently. I had a couple videos that got bigger than I expected. The Dave Lee interview went very big, and the one with Randy Kirk, where we discussed the future of Tesla bots, is among my biggest. It's certainly the biggest of this year. I would appreciate if someone would ask them to turn it into a larger Berkshire-like event someday. I would love that too. I think their strategy is more smaller events, fewer big events. Because we just had Investor Day, and now we're having Shareholder Day, and before that we had AI Day 2, and the semi-delivery event. There's a lot of events. I just wish their corporate communication was a little more robust. We love Tesla bot videos. Well, give me some topics, and maybe we'll do some more. I'd love to do that too. So what did I miss? What did I misunderstand? Leave it all in them comments below. If you're going to be here, I'll be there in 90 minutes. Means I got about 40 minutes to relax before I gets on the road. Oh, it's nice to be home. It's nice to have you guys here in the chat. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll keep going. I think that's Ryan's car. I can't tell from here, but I think that's Ryan's Model X. That's an X, right? Looks like it. Tough to tell from here. Yeah, it's got to be. It's the same size. Ryan's a super nice guy. He let me park in his driveway. and picked me up at the airport. So that was cool. And we got to hang out and chat. So that was awesome. Conjecture about miniaturization of bots. You know what I'd like to see the bots have? Extra arms. Yeah, even if they're little guys, little stubby guys that stick out to just hold stuff while they do stuff. How will the Tesla bot do stuff daily? That's not a bad idea. Thank you, Jim. How will it do stuff daily? Yeah. And one of the questions, well, it's got to stop and charge. Does it have to stop? Or can it, if it's working at a particular station, can it just plug in while it's there? Can it have an inductive coil under 1 foot and just step on a pad? Maybe. I don't think inductive is the way they're going to go, but you never know. If it makes sense, it makes sense. If you can get decent efficiency by getting the contact pads close enough, as you would in a foot, why not? Well, it's been, these guys can't even make one walk. Well, first of all, they can. We've seen one walk, but it's not, the challenge is not ambulation. They can move around. Making a robot that can walk is something a high school team can do. Making a bot that can reason, you can give it a command in spoken plain English, or any other language, I suppose, and have it understand what you're doing and get it done. That's worth way more. That's worth all of it. That's the difference. None of these things happen in a vacuum. All the tech you will see from the bot was built on the backs of giants. All the things that made Boston Dynamics work was, if you look at Asimov, the Honda robot, when it came out in 1986, when they started developing it, the world's largest supercomputer was less powerful than one in a cheap mobile phone from today. You can build a better bot if you've got 1,000 times the processing power. Because I don't know what they were putting in the Asimov and in the early days, but it would be hilariously slow compared to the cheapest, compact, ultra tiny mobile phone processor on the market today. All right, guys. Well, thanks for hanging out with me. And stay tuned. Stay juicy. And I can't wait to hear from you clever robots in 90 minutes or maybe on the 16th.